Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Book and Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Stunning Steve Barber, and joining me, as always, is my awesome co-host, the intellectual rock star himself, Delicious Joylan Davis.
Hey, everybody.
And man, it's been a week since we record. Yeah, it's been a week, I believe.
Yep.
It's been a week. We could not record this past Monday, and then we also could not record Tuesday, and
Yeah.
then Wednesday. Well, which was last night, I couldn't record because I was at AEW Dynamite.
Yeah.
First time ever when it was an AEW show. So I'll have to tell our listeners and our viewers about that. And people who are viewing, you can see I'm wearing a AEW Dynamite t-shirt.
Yeah.
It even has stuff on the back of it. It says I was there. Let me turn it around. You can kind
Awesome.
of see, it says I was there. It's like I was telling Joylan before we started recording. It's like when we were in high school, you knew the people who went to a concert in Nashville the night before.
Yep.
Yeah, because
they're all new concert tee. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all coming in wearing like Bullet Boys and Brittany Fox and
Yeah.
like it seemed to be always like the hair bands because they were cute.
It always was. Yeah. Yeah. It was always the hair bands. Yeah.
Yeah, so but that's why I feel like now I gotta get that flex on. and but even bigger news in AEW Dynamite is Endeavor. Actually, I actually looked up the name of the company. Yeah, it's Endeavor, and they have actually bought WWE. So for the first time, well, ever, a McMahon does not own WWE, WWF, WWF, WWFE,
Yep.
anything. And I'm still like, I don't really know what to think about it yet, but obviously, apparently from something that you sent to me about an hour or so ago, things have already started to happen.
Yeah. Nick Khan sent out an email letting everybody in the offices know that they needed to work remotely because they were going to start working on employee layoffs, at least at the office level. Um, and they wanted everybody, basically, they want everybody out of the office and working at home so they can do the layoffs in private without there being a lot of, talk amongst the employees in the office. Um, Probably so that way nobody knows who's getting laid off until that person actually gets laid off.
Yeah,
You don't
because
have
normally,
all the office gossip and
HR, they show up at your desk with a box.
yeah, with a box like, come on.
And you have no clue.
Yeah, yeah. I know my last job, the way they did it was like if they were letting you go, they came and got you, and then you were never allowed to go back to your desk. Management would box everything up and take it to the front desk. And then once you signed your exit papers and all that stuff, then you went to the front desk, got your box, went out the front door, and that was it. But they never let you go back to your desk.
My last job, they would do very, very similar to that. They come to your desk, get you, take you out. Then they would box all your stuff up, but then they would actually bring it to you, like bring it to your house, or
Oh, wow.
or they would have you come back up there,
Mm-hmm.
to get it or whatever. But it wasn't a case of, you met them at we didn't really have like a front desk. Just the way our
Okay.
office was set up.
Yeah.
But I'm the one who put in my notice, and I
Mm-hmm.
spent, a good week or so every day putting stuff in boxes, bringing it
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that was in those boxes you see behind me. Like, I had
Mm-hmm.
some cubes there. I had pictures of my family there. Now they're sitting on my desk / table that's over here that you can't see with the camera and probably won't see because man, it is a mess. I'm not even gonna. Yeah,
Mine is too. What you all see on the camera on my desk, that's because everything got shoved over here because I didn't have time to clean it up before we started recording. So I was just like, I'll just put it all over here where they can't see it.
yeah, because like right on the other side of my
Mm.
laptop with the camera, yeah, it's pretty bad. There's a globe though. I do have a globe back there because I didn't really have anywhere else to put it. I always wanted a globe. My wife, she got me a globe. I was like, all right,
Yep.
cool. But even the stock symbol has changed. It is
Hmm.
no longer WWE. It's now TKO, which is actually, I mean, it's easy to remember,
Yeah.
but it's a merger between the World Wrestling Entertainment Inc. and Zuffa. That was the parent company of the UFC.
UFC. Yep.
And with all the stuff they get, and um, I mean, some of the stuff we knew, but we just never really thought about what all WWE owned. Um, they were a minority owner in Alpha Entertainment. Then they were a 50% owner of Tap Out. Titan Towers, TSI Reality Services, WCW Incorporated, WWE Books, WWE Home Video, WWE Jet Services. I like that crap.
Mm.
Uh, the Legacy Department, which would include the AWA Deep South Wrestling, Evolve, which is Dragon Gate,
Hmm.
ECW, Florida Championship Wrestling, Georgia Championship Wrestling, Global Wrestling Federation, the Heartland Wrestling Association, which means I need to go on the network and watch some of those matches because they happen like 15 minutes away from where I'm living now.
Oh wow.
Yeah. They said Heartland Wrestling Association. Oh, it's in Cincinnati. Mm.
It's like,
It
but is
was.
it though?
Is it though? I mean, it's actually right out. It's outside of Cincinnati. International Championship Wrestling. Jim Crockett, with Jim Crockett, I mean, I forgot all the stuff they bought. Central States
Yeah.
Wrestling from Florida, Championship Wrestling from Georgia, which is different from Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Hmm. Yep.
Um, Eastern States Championship Wrestling, Mid Atlantic Championship Wrestling, the Maple Leaf, Memphis Championship Wrestling, Ohio Valley Wrestling Select Footage, Smoky Mountain, Stampede, Ultimate Pro, Universal Wrestling Federation, which was Mid South Wrestling, NWA Tri State, World Class, World Championship Wrestling, World Wrestling Council, Select Footage,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Music Group, the Network, Performance Center, Podcast Network, the Shop, and the Studios. Holy crap.
Yeah. And Endeavor's got it all.
Yeah, Endeavor has it all. And then they have everything under UFC, which
Yeah.
UFC, I mean, there's just not a lot compared to what WWE had.
Yeah.
But
Well, but the thing with UFC is they didn't feel the need to do all that. It's like, this is what we're good at. This is what we're going to stick to.
right. And I think UFC, I mean, I know you have like little local, like indie wrestling. You're going to
Yeah.
have like little local fight clubs.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. Little independent fight clubs. Yeah. Like you said, it's like indie wrestling. It's their independent scene.
Right. And they don't really feed up, but then again, I mean, they also suffer from their first rule of Fight Club.
Yeah, exactly. You don't talk about it.
You don't talk about Fight Club.
Yeah.
But and I know they got to have, in all seriousness, they got to have like some kind of dojos with different,
Hmm. Yeah.
different disciplines for martial arts. I mean, that's where I didn't realize this when I was reading about this UFC. The term MMA literally came from when the guys actually started mixing up their
Hmm.
different styles.
Yep.
That's like a mixed martial arts, and I'm like,
Hmm. Yeah.
duh. So
Here is my thing with this merger. How long before the infighting starts between Vince McMahon and Dana White? Because Nick Khan has already said that he can envision in a few years that UFC fans becoming WWE fans, because he doesn't realize that's already a thing, and WWE fans becoming UFC fans, and again, he doesn't realize that's already a thing. But there, WWE, way Nick Khan's talking is WWE wants to do a lot of crossover stuff with the UFC. Dana White's already been like, no, that's not something we're trying to do.
won't happen.
Yeah, and there's and like I said, it's like Vince McMahon wanted so many irons in the fire. He's lost so much money trying to be something else besides a wrestling company. He envisioned himself as like Disney, where he was this giant conglomerate. And yes, the biggest wrestling company in the world. And everybody likes to focus on the fact they're the biggest wrestling company in the world. But look how much they've lost on different things, like WWF New York during the Attitude Era. And then they changed it to the world once the Attitude Era kind of faded out. when it went to the Ruthless Aggression. They changed it to the World, and then it ended up closing down. They lost money there. They lost just an obscene amount of money with the XFL.
Hmm.
Um,
The WBF.
yeah, yeah, the WBF lost tons of money there. Lost tons of money with the movie studio. You notice they hadn't put out a movie in forever. I think the last Marine movie with the Miz was like the last movie that they put out, and it's like because you're not a movie studio. You're a wrestling company. Just stick to what you know.
And I think even like with the movie studio, them the movies were not going to go much beyond an audience of wrestling fans.
No. And the only two good movies that they had in the whole string of movies they did was See No Evil with Kane and The Condemned with Stone Cold. Those are
Yep.
the only two movies that were any good. You can keep the Marine, the John Cena version, the Miz version. None of those were good. None of that other stuff that they did was any good. As you said, because it's a limited fan base. You're not going to, I mean, you know, they didn't get a huge theater release or anything like that. The majority of them were straight to video. And, you know, it's just, you're not going to pull in that crossover audience with that type of, I don't know, running that type of movie theater.
And not only that, but I mean, let's face it, most people who aren't wrestling fans, they look down on
Hmm.
wrestling.
Yep. Yep. They sure do. And
And
here's the thing, too, UFC fans, diehard UFC fans, a lot of them look down on pro wrestling because
sir,
they look at it like we're real and they're fake. Now they're under the same umbrella. There's gonna be a lot of infighting. I just there's it's just a matter of time because especially I haven't seen any confirmation, but there is a rumor going around that I saw it all over Twitter this afternoon that because of the way the board of directors has been structured with this merger, Vince is chairman of the board. So Vince could potentially have some say in things that happen in UFC.
oh, I was actually just looking at that too.
Like I said, I haven't seen any confirmation of that, but that's been a lot of the talk is that with Vince being chairman of the board, and
Well,
he's chairman of the board of
he's
TKO.
he's chairman of TKO Group Holdings.
Uh-huh.
Ari Emanuel is the
Is the
CEO.
CEO. Yeah, who put
Okay,
Vince in place in the first because that's why Vince is chairman of the board again because the CEO wanted him in place.
I'm going through all these board of directors. Uh, Steve Koonin. This one just kind of struck me as funny. Steve Koonin, he's represented, but he's the CEO of the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks are part of this.
I had no idea they were part of it.
Uh,
But see, that's going to be the problem too. Instead of like Vince being chairman of the board of the WWE, he is chairman of the board of this merger, of this, little conglomerate here. And do they not think Vince was sitting at home Monday making changes to Raw remotely? Do you not think he's not going to try to put his fingerprints all over UFC if he can?
it's almost like Vince's dream finally came true, where he's the owner of this huge company,
Yes,
but he's also 117 years old.
exactly. And it's like, and here's the thing, not related to business or anything, just a personal thing of mine. If somebody doesn't tie that man down and shave that mustache off, I don't know what's going on. Because it's like, why do you look like a vaudevillain? Stop it.
Telling you, he looks like Fredo.
He does. Yeah, he looks like Fredo Corleone. It's like, stop. And it's like, you are 106 years old. Why are you dyeing your hair and your mustache jet black?
You're not fooling anyone, Vince.
No. especially since we've seen you over the years go increasingly gray, and now all of a sudden we're going to believe, oh, well, now he's just got a head full of black hair. No, no.
Look at my goatee.
Yeah,
Okay.
look at mine.
Yeah. Look at my hair. I mean, it is more gray anymore. There's a lot more salt than pepper. I'll just put it like that. So, oh, I'm looking and I actually just saw where Vince, he controlled. I mean, I knew he controlled a lot of the voting shares.
Hmm.
I did not realize how much until I was now. This is on
Oh yeah,
Wikipedia.
he had the majority of the voting shares. That's why whenever the WWE board voted on something, he could always overrule because he had so much of the voting share.
Um, I was just looking at it, and
That's why I never understood what was the point of the board.
I know,
If Vince had final say anyway, why have a board of directors?
I can't see where, but I want to say earlier when I read it, it was something like 86%.
Hmm. Well, now he only has 16%. From what I
Okay,
saw earlier today, he only has 16%. Triple H is no longer on the board, is not on the board of directors for TKO. Uh, he he is still in charge of creative and talent relations,
so he
which
still
I'm
has a
fine
job.
with.
Yeah.
He still has a job. He still has the important, and that's the important job. I mean, it's probably less of a headache for him to not be on the board of directors. That's one less thing he's got to worry about, and he can focus more on the creative side.
Um, it said Vince had a 38.6% ownership of the company's outstanding stock and 81.1% of the voting power before the merger.
Hmm.
And so
Yep.
when Vince was fired, he wasn't really fired.
No, when Vince stepped away because
Reasons.
all of his demons came to life.
Yeah. But now, like you mentioned before, and when you texted me that the Twix link that was
Hmm.
talking about, the tomorrow all these people are going to work from home, they're remote.
Yeah. Yep.
And by the way, if you've never seen Office Space, when they say we find it's best to fire people on a Friday, you know, um,
Hmm.
unfortunately that's
That's how it is. They want to get that
yeah,
full weeks of work after you because if they're going to, and not only do they want to wait till Friday to fire you, they want to wait till the end of the day Friday to fire you. That way they get a full day's work before they lower the boom.
when Office Space they said, oh, there's less risk of them coming back in and attacking everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And um but they're having their work from home remotely. They're going to be calling them. Hopefully they actually at least call them. Do not email, do not text, at least call them. But we'll see. I
But
mean,
I
but
mean,
but this is the business, unfortunately, the business side of a
hmm.
merger. And this is when you say, forget the fact that that the TKO, it's a fighting sports entertainment
Well,
merger happening.
hmm.
It's two businesses that are merging. One is going to have more power than the other. Um, the UFC part, they're 51%, WWE is 49%. They got that very, very
Hmm. Yep.
slight majority. And so they're going to be the ones, just like they're going to be the ones to make the decisions on who stays and who goes. And what happens a lot of times with like any company merger, the company who's taken over the other company, they usually put their people in place.
Hmm. Yep.
And part of the reason why, for better or for worse, they know these people. They don't know
Exactly.
necessarily the other people.
Yep.
And it's
They don't
like,
know the new people coming in, and it's even if it's their people and they don't really care for their people, some of their people, it's still I'll take the evil I know over the evil I don't.
right. And I saw that happen when company I was in, company I was with, was bought out and merged with a different company, and we became that different company.
Mhm.
Um, and I saw all of a sudden it was mostly at the leadership level. Um,
Oh yeah.
you know, but we all had to reapply for our jobs.
Oh.
Yeah. And I actually did not get rehired from my job. But then the person who came from the second company actually told me, he kind of did a foot stomp. You need to apply for this other job.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out they were actually waiting for me to apply for it. They couldn't just hand it to me, but
Okay.
they knew I would be a good fit because, well, part of the reason why I had just finished my MBA, which made
Mm,
me overqualified for the old job.
got you. Okay.
So, but the new job actually, this was a new position they were creating, and it wasn't just
Oh
one
wow.
position. Yeah, they were created. There was two different slots for it, and they were waiting for me to apply for it, and nobody else had applied, and so I got picked up for that one, and then another one of my coworkers actually got picked up for the other one, but then he had also applied for a different position and got hired for that one, and so he decided to go that way instead, which was actually kind of good.
Mm-hmm.
So but then I worked that next one for 7 years, but my first two chains in my leadership were from the other company, which was
Right.
now, you know,
Yeah.
because, and they had both bumped up, they had both been promoted from their previous positions in the company before. So as the merger happened, they both got bumped up. And now one of them is actually, he got promoted again, went to Charlotte, then he got promoted again. And he, ironically enough, is in the office in Stamford, Connecticut, just right down the road from WWE headquarters.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I mean, he was, you could tell, I mean, he was going to be moving up. He was a good dude, you know.
Yeah.
The other one went, he also, I guess it was kind of a promotion, but he went to Charlotte and he's probably going to stay there, but they had
Mm.
actually followed each other too. They had been friends and they had followed each
Oh,
other like
okay.
five different locations. And, um, but yeah, but that's the business side of it. I mean, they brought in the leadership. I mean, there was some of the leadership that was retained from the old
Mm-hmm.
company. But a lot of them we're seeing all these new faces. They were all moving up from Louisiana and Georgia and moving in, up to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And then within a couple of years, a lot of them are like, screw the last second. That it's too cold. And, of course, the one guy, I mean, he's up in Stamford, Connecticut now.
Yeah.
Um, but unfortunately, there's the business side of it. So, are they going to be replacing, the office workers? And we say office workers like that's, oh, it's just admins. No, it's not just that. By the way, don't say just in anyway.
Right.
And it's your admin folks. Maybe a lot of times admin folks don't necessarily get replaced,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, because, well, they're very valuable and they have all the information. So you can't just replace an admin person, so it might be like some of the financial analysts, people like kind of like the job I was doing before I left,
Mm-hmm.
4 months ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, and some of that, I mean, it's always transparent. We don't know what goes on like in the offices of any kind of entertainment company. Um, but when you sent me the other link saying like Elias, there's rumors he's been let go.
Yeah. There's rumors, and they're not flat out saying he's been released, but they're saying he is no longer under contract with WWE. Um,
Hmm.
so if that is the case, that's sad because extremely talented person that if they'd have just left it alone and let it happen organically like it was happening, he'd be a huge star now because he was on that path and they couldn't leave it alone. They had to meddle with it. And it's like, just let it happen. Quit trying to quit trying to book everything the way you want it because the crowd is going to tell you what they like and don't like.
Mm-hmm. The crowd liked booing him in the ring because he's a bad
Mm-hmm.
guy. They liked his songs
Mm-hmm.
and they liked chanting "Walk with Elias."
Exactly. They love the interaction. And it's like if you can get the fans, I mean, look at right now, and I don't understand why they were so hell bent on stopping that because you look at Seth Rollins now, fan interaction is a whole big part of his entrance. I mean, the fans literally sing him to the ring.
Yep.
Look at LA Knight now. I mean, the fans are. I mean, half the time he just has to make the motion because the fans are saying the catchphrase for him, and it's like that's the fan interaction. That's what people pay to come do is be a part of the show, and not in a good way, not try to hijack the show like you have some fans that want to come and do.
Yeah.
But they just want to come and interact with their favorite wrestlers and have a good time. I don't know why they messed that up with Elias when it was literally right there in their hands, and they just screwed it all up.
I mean, another example, AEW saw this in person last night.
Hmm.
Chris Jericho.
Hmm.
Even when Chris Jericho was a heel, the fans were still singing along to his
Yeah.
theme song he wrote, he sang on,
Uh-huh.
and then they would boo him in the ring.
Oh yeah. As soon as the song stopped and he started to talk, they booed him. But the fan interaction with them, everybody singing Judas was phenomenal every single time.
It is fun. I have it on video. I'll have to send it to you. I don't want to actually bring it up on the show because unfortunately I have, we might get copyrighted.
Yeah, yeah.
And
We don't want.
I mean, granted, we're already demonetized as it is.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Was
Spreaker.
was Christian Cage on the show last
He
night?
was. He was.
Yes, because Christian Cage, for my money, I used to say MJF was the best heel in the business, but he's kind of in that tweener thing now. Christian Cage is the best pure heel in the business because he is just ruthless.
He was. I don't remember who he was talking to, but he was saying something about their mom's Instagram pictures. It was
Nick Gage, he's this.
okay.
He, I
Yeah.
mean, he's like 18 years old. He just started in AEW. He's been on the indie scene for 2 or 3 years though. He's phenomenal already. But
Oh, so whenever they were doing like the co-op at high school, he's like,
he's
even
like,
like
oh,
he went over to the wrestling training school.
yeah, yeah, because he had a contract waiting for him. Darby Allin went to a show that Nick Gage was uh, wrestling at, and had showed him the contract. He's like, when you turn 18, you have a contract waiting for you with AEW. He was 16 at the time, so it's
Wow.
like, yeah,
Um, and when well, we'll go over the AEW stuff a little bit. I want to cover some more stuff about this merger because like I said, I really don't know what to think because it's a corporate type thing. You
yeah,
know,
and it's like, and that's going to be, and what people don't realize, there's going to be restructuring for WWE. People are like, oh, things probably won't change a whole lot. No, there's going to be restructuring
yeah,
from the top to the bottom, positions, people's salaries, things like that. All of that has to get restructured when there's a merger. And they want to say it's two different entities, but in name, yeah, there's WWE and UFC. But TKO is the name of it's the name of the brand, and that's what they're going to push more than they're going to push WWE or UFC. TKO is what you're going to see pushed to the moon.
and let me go see what TKO are trading at right now. Where you at? Where you at? Come on now. TKO. Oh, right at $100. It ended the day at $100. Not 100.01. No, $100.
No, I do
Um,
want that giant universal title that they had outside the stock exchange.
that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, set it in my front yard.
um, they still have the dividend. I mean, the granted the dividend yield's only 0.48%, so it's not the greatest, but I mean, it sounds like it'll probably be still 10 cents a share is what I'm
Yeah, and
guessing.
that's the thing too. Now it's like when you buy stock, you'll be buying stock in TKO, not
Mm-hmm.
WWE or UFC. You'll be buying stock in TKO.
I don't know for sure, but I'm going to guess that everybody who owned WWE stock, it just flipped to being
It
TKO.
probably.
Yeah. And, so it may have been transparent to them. But, you're talking about like the restructuring. I've already seen rumors that Fox wants out of the wrestling game. I don't know how
Yeah.
true it is.
Well, I saw that. I was going to bring that up too. I saw an article that was stating that Fox was thinking about getting out because WWE reportedly, no confirmation, reportedly wants $300 million for the TV rights to SmackDown.
They're pretty proud of it, apparently.
Yeah, if Fox pulls out, Disney and Amazon are the front runners to obtain TV rights to WWE programming.
Wow.
As far as SmackDown goes, I haven't heard the NBC Universal side of it as far as Raw goes, whether there's any issue with renegotiating that. But I have seen several articles that, like you said, Fox is wanting out of the wrestling game because
If
they don't want to pay that kind of money. And it'd be interesting to see if Disney or Amazon was able to grab up SmackDown for several years.
I don't see Amazon doing it because Amazon are not an entertainment company. I mean, they own everything known to man, but they're not really an entertainment company. Disney, though, I mean, I could see because, well, all the other entertainment things, you know, they own quite a few. And one of the things I will suggest to Endeavor, to TKO, to all of them, move the WWE headquarters to Florida out of Connecticut, because the training center is already there.
Yeah.
The cost of living is, I mean, don't get me wrong, Orlando is still expensive, but it's not like Connecticut expensive.
Exactly. And like you said, the training center is already there. NXT, your developmental / third brand, is already there. Just have that be your location. Have that be your central location. It makes sense. And like you said, it's cheaper than Connecticut. So
And yes, I do realize Madison Square Garden is up in New York City. However, I mean, I've also read from several sources that say whenever they run a garden show, they lose money.
yeah, the Garden's not the hot spot like it used to be. I mean, 80s, 70s and 80s, yeah. New York, the Madison Square Garden was the spot to have a wrestling show.
Right.
But, even in the 90s, but then it just kind of fizzled out. Times change, people's interests change, and yeah, they lose money every time they run a show at the Garden.
Right. And a lot of that is due to labor costs. That could lead into some other discussions, but a lot of it is due to labor costs, which means if they don't sell out,
yeah,
they're going to lose money.
Yeah, if they don't sell out, they've instantly lost money.
Right. And the last few times they've had a show at the Garden, they haven't sold out.
Mm-mm.
But you go down to Orlando and you have more tourists there who like me, who are more to actually go and watch a wrestling show while they're there.
Yeah.
And so if Disney does buy them, of course, Disney is technically headquartered in Los Angeles and Anaheim, but of course Disney World.
Yeah.
And we also have a friend who works at Disney.
Yep.
And and she absolutely loves it. My daughter technically worked for Disney, over the last 9 months out of the last year. And so, and she really liked it, but there's, so many reasons to move it down to Florida. And, but well, I mean, we'll see, how the TV deals go. We'll also see, okay, are they going to keep the rights? So this makes me kind of wonder, because one of the biggest complaints that like you and I have had about the WWE, and we're not the only ones, but having non-wrestlers as the people creating the stories.
Yeah,
and
it never works. It's never worked. It didn't, it didn't work toward the latter days of WCW when they had the Time Warner people and AOL people come in telling them how to run a wrestling show, and none of them have a wrestling background. It's not working. It's not working now. The only reason the stories are getting better now is because Triple H is in charge of creative. Triple H was a wrestler. So it's like you need people who understand what's going on writing these stories and not stop hiring TV writers because that was a problem too. Vince envisioned himself as this giant television mogul and all that. No, you're a wrestling promoter. Just
Mm-hmm.
that's your job. Do your job. Stop hiring these TV writers and everything for a wrestling show. It never made any sense because it's like, as you can tell, with a lot of cheesy sitcoms, we got a lot of cheesy dialogue and storylines with these TV writers because they had no idea how to write for a wrestling show.
And they didn't listen to the fans.
No, they didn't listen to the fans at all. That's another. Vince always thought he knew what we wanted as fans more than we did, and it's like, but you don't, because if you did, great Khali never would have been world heavyweight champion. But there would have been a lot of people. The Miz never would have been WWE champion. There have been a lot of people that wouldn't have been in the position they were in if Vince had listened to the fans. And I know listen to the fans can be a bad thing at times because there's some toxic wrestling fans out there.
Yeah.
But the people paying to see this show should be the ones that you're listening to, not the people in a boardroom or at a writers meeting or whatever. Listen to the people that pay for all this because without them, if they're not liking it and they're turning it off, y'all aren't getting paid.
And I'm actually okay with the Miz. I may be one of the few, but
I mean,
I get how
I,
he's
I I
polarizing, but
I respect the work that he put in to actually become a pro wrestler coming
yeah,
from reality TV. Just the Miz main eventing WrestleMania should have never been a thing. When there's tons of guys who never got a WrestleMania main event that should have.
right. And I think that was more that may have been Vince trying to cash in on the recognition from outside of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You
Oh,
know,
definitely. I mean, and the Miz took advantage of it and made a big name for himself, and I don't blame him. I'd have done the same thing.
but we'll have to kind of just see how it plays out, and
Mm-hmm.
time will tell. Because I hope this will actually help improve that. We're always looking for improvement, no matter what,
Yeah,
and not be detrimental. But um,
yeah.
because
Because I think,
go ahead.
sorry, if anything detrimental happens, it's going to be on the WWE side because the UFC, they've got, all their stuff's in place. They've got a solid proven track record. And like you said, you know, they were already under Endeavor anyway. So they're not going to be the ones that really have to worry or suffer if there's any issues. It's going to be WWE that's going to have the problems.
Um, and unfortunately, I think wrestling might be on a little bit of a downslide anyway right now. And honestly, I kind of saw proof of that last night. Not with the action in the ring,
Mm-hmm.
but with a couple of the pictures that I sent to you on the other side of the
Mm-hmm.
ring from
Yeah.
where I was sitting.
I think it I think the problem is I think it's fatigue. I mean, there's so much wrestling out there that and BC talked about this on his podcast of,
Yes, very, very good episode. I know exactly the one you're talking
exact
about.
yep,
Man,
yep.
it was
Because
fantastic.
I listened to it and I agreed with him. I mean, there's so much wrestling out there that you don't have time to watch. I'm in the same boat he is. There's so much wrestling out there. I don't have time to watch any of it. I have to watch. YouTube has been my best friend as far as keeping up with
Mhm.
pro wrestling because I can watch the clips, keep up with the storylines, and then with WWE, I'll watch the premium live event. I'll catch the AEW pay per view if I can, but YouTube and Twitter is how I keep up with my wrestling because there's just so much that there's no possible way to watch it all. I mean, WWE has, not counting main event because nobody counts main event. If you don't count main event and don't count Level Up, Um, they still have 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of NXT, and 2 hours of SmackDown. They have 7 hours of TV a week. AEW has 2 hours of Dynamite, an hour of Rampage, 2 hours of Collision. They have five, plus 2 hours of Ring of Honor a week.
Mm-hmm.
You
There's
have
seven.
Yeah, you have New Japan. You've got Impact's got 2 hours a week. They really have the lightest one as far as TV. They only have one show, one televised show a week. But still, that's still 2 more hours of wrestling. Um, and then all the indie stuff that goes on. It's just I would never say that there's too much, because there can never be too much wrestling, because that means if there's not enough wrestling, then we get a situation like we had when Vince bought WCW,
Mm-hmm.
and there was no place for anybody else to go because Vince was the only game in town. I never want to see it get back to that. I love the fact that everybody's got being able to do what they love to do and be able to work. But as a fan, I can understand the fatigue, because it's just like AEW just ran two pay-per-views back to back
Yep.
with a total of probably 7-8 hours between the two pay-per-views. Not only is that exhausting to watch, and I've heard both are excellent shows. I still haven't had a chance to watch them, but that's just so much time that you would have to devote to watch those back to back like that. And then financially, it's
I
like,
say, not to mention,
yeah. And I mean, at least with WWE, it's on Peacock. We're paying for our Peacock subscription. We get the network. With AEW, it's the regular pay-per-view schedule. So you're looking at 50-60 bucks a pop for a pay-per-view 2 weeks in a row. So it's like, who can afford that? I mean, especially you got gas at 3.50, $3.50 a gallon here. And
yeah, it's slightly higher than that here, but yeah,
yeah,
that's and not to talk about the indies, and then you have I'll call them like the super indies, like an OVW, who
yes,
they're on Fight TV every week.
yeah,
Now you have to
yep.
pay for it.
They're on Fight too. Yeah, the NWA, you've got, I think they've got two different shows a week, probably a couple of hours each. So that's another 4 hours. It's just, I mean, there's just so much. There's no way you would have to literally stay up 36 hours to watch everything that's out there for a week's time. You would have to literally stay up and watch wrestling 36 hours nonstop to be able to watch everything that's on offer.
And not to mention when you're fans like us, and I call us, kind of super fans also, because we run our own podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And our show goes between an hour and 2 hours, just kind of depending on whatever,
Yeah, whatever the topic is.
whatever the
Yeah.
topic is. And but we also listen to other
Mm-hmm.
podcasts. And like you said, you're also trying to catch it on YouTube. So there's some who only show on YouTube. I mean,
Yep.
we both catch the What Culture, we both catch the Cultaholic,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
things like that. So but there is so much. And then here lately I've been reading these rumors, talk about AEW. Well, they're inflating their numbers. They're actually playing to half-filled arenas. Unfortunately, I will say last night that was very true. Um, if you were to watch AEW Dynamite and then you watch AEW Rampage, of course, Rampage is taped. It's recorded
Mm-hmm.
right after Dynamite, about 15 minutes. It's they have to change the rings over,
I
and
was gonna say, enough for them to
yeah,
change the ring skirt and
ring skirt. They have to change the turnbuckle. I noticed that last night to go from TBS to TNT.
mm-hmm.
A couple other things they have to do and give everybody a chance to go pee.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I did. And then when they start, of course, they Rampage goes faster because during Dynamite they have to stop for the commercial breaks. Now they will announce, unless it's
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of a match. I will say that, because when I was watching part of the replay today of a show that I was actually at, which is you kind of, it's weird, you
Yeah,
have to do that
yeah.
because you want to spot yourself on TV, and I did. Like I said, kind of a big deal. I've been on
Yeah.
TBS for all of about 3 seconds.
Hey, you're still there.
I'm there. I mean, we're on IMDb. You
Hey.
know,
Yeah.
kind of a big deal. But um, but when I was watching it, I did see during like the very first match, Moxley, Big Bill, used to be known as Big Cass.
Hmm.
Um, Moxley must have bladed at some point because he got pretty bloody. And I saw the referee, throwing the gloves. Like, yeah, I ain't touching that.
Hmm.
Um, but they didn't announce them when there's a commercial. But any other time between matches, if they went
Hmm.
to a commercial, they did. They said, "Okay, we're on a commercial break right now." Blah blah blah. And
Hmm.
the announcer, I really wish I could remember his name. Um, he was funny. He was very good at what he does. And and he, of course, he's only looking one direction because there
Hmm.
was nobody in the other direction.
Yeah.
Because so when they're saying that AEW is playing arenas that are half full, yeah, they're half full with everybody shoved on the one side for the cameras.
And that's like, and there's even a thing going around now that they're saying that AEW inflated their numbers for um, All In, at Wembley. I don't I don't view it because they never said. Here's the thing: the turnstile, going by how many people came through the turnstiles at Wembley, it was like roughly 72,000 people.
Yep.
But the paid, what AEW said, and I've read it multiple times for weeks, the paid attendance was roughly 82,000 people. But people were like, "Oh, they inflated the numbers. It was, probably 10,000 people less." Here's the thing: not everybody had. A lot of the people that are at these events, especially as a stadium that size that has VIP suites and the boxes and all that, if these are important people, they're not coming through the turnstile like me and you are.
Mm-hmm.
They're being escorted through backstage so they're not bothered by any of the common folk, so to speak. So they're not going to get counted. And there was a lot of those people. I'm not saying there was 10,000 of them, but there was a lot of people in there that were paid but didn't come through those turnstiles.
And plus, if you have people who are bringing their kids, and I'm
Yeah,
like you said, not saying there's 10,000 of them,
yeah.
but I can tell you for a fact, whenever we've taken like my son when he was a lot
Hmm.
smaller, we took him to events. We'd get to the turnstiles, but I'm holding him,
Hmm.
you know, um, because it's just a lot easier to do that than have him get trampled in a crowd, and
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
can't do that
So it's
now
just
because
so it's just counting you going through the turnstile, not you and him.
right, and he has a ticket. I mean, we have
Yeah.
a seat, so um, and if you look at I've seen some of the pictures. I haven't actually watched the pay per view, and it's part of my to do list.
Yeah,
And
me too. It's on the list. I just
uh,
hadn't had the time.
because and talk about to all the wrestling when you also have families
Hmm.
and things like you have other
Yep.
responsibilities.
Hmm.
When
Yep.
I was a kid, I would have loved to have been able to have this much because I had no other responsibilities. But you
Oh yeah.
throw
But
out
yeah,
everything else. Um,
but being family man, it's like I got other stuff to do. I don't have 4 hours to dedicate to sit down and watch this wrestling pay-per-view.
exactly. But the pictures I've seen, I didn't really see a lot of empty seats.
I neither. And that's the thing. It's like, but people are always going to try to tear down AEW.
Mm-hmm.
It's like those diehard WWE fans that act like WWE is the only wrestling that's ever existed are always going to try to find a reason to dog AEW or tear them down. And are they playing to, half filled arenas? Yeah, I'm sure. You said they were last night.
Yep.
But WWE does too. I went to SummerSlam and half that stadium was empty. While they were saying that the attendance was like almost 50,000 people, No, it was probably about 35. The whole one side, because me and my wife went down and were able to watch the main event from the opposite angle of the
Okay.
and like where the announce team was, we were back, but it was like here and it was all empty seats. Half that stadium was empty. They packed everybody on the hard cam side.
And
And
that's what they did last night.
yeah, and when I looked, I was because I told Hope, I'm like, look, I said, all of that is just tarped off with big tarps that had the WWE logo on them.
And I didn't even think about that. The arena last night may not have even been halfway full because there was another level up top that was completely topped off.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I've been to that very same arena. I've been to a SmackDown taping when this is back when they used to tape it on Tuesdays and then show it on Thursdays.
Yeah.
I've also been to a house show, both of them to play, a WWE house show, and
Hmm.
it was full.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm not trying to bag on AEW. I mean, I'm really not. I'm just, saying that I think unfortunately wrestling might be on a slight downturn right now. Um,
I think a lot of the problem is I think it's one of those bubbles popped, so to speak.
yeah,
There's so much that
yeah, it's too much.
yeah, there's so much wrestling that it's almost too much to handle. As a fan, there's only so much you can consume and still live your daily life. I mean, people have jobs and families and other interests outside of
Oh,
wrestling.
and what just happened across the entire country? School just started.
School just started. Yep. You know,
There,
public school, college, all that has started. I mean, and just money's tight.
mm-hmm.
The price of food is increasing. It seems like every time I have to go to the store for something, it's gotten higher from just a day or two before. Gas, like I said, here in Paducah, gas is 3.50 a gallon. I know you go across the bridge to Metropolis, Illinois, and it's about 50 cents higher. It's
Mm-hmm.
about $4 a gallon in Metropolis or close to it. Um, so it's like people don't have the money to go to every single show.
And
Whether,
especially to buy merch because I'm gonna tell you this shirt that I'm wearing,
yeah,
$40.
yeah, the that
Yeah.
Nashville 316 shirt that I've got, yeah, it was $35 at the show.
Yep. And
Yeah.
but just watching that, and it's a shame because the action in the ring was great.
Oh yeah, it's like
And
it quality wise, I would honestly say quality wise, this is the best it's been since I was a kid watching Jim Crockett in Memphis.
mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'm talking WWE, NXT, AEW, New Japan, Impact, just the quality of wrestling. These men and women are just amazing. They are putting on phenomenal matches night in and night out. There's just so much of it, it's hard to keep up.
And I mean, yeah, because it's not like the end days of WCW. What their in ring product was absolute garbage.
I mean, outside of the cruiserweight division,
Right. Which they
yeah,
didn't push.
they didn't push, yeah, but outside of the cruiserweight division, everything else is trash. You know, WWE went through that spell, you know, after the invasion angle was over, and you know, they were before TNA started and before Ring of Honor started, that little gap right there where WWE kind of just rested on their laurels because it's like we don't have any competition. And then they went through that horrible stage between like 2009 and 2011 where the WWE product was just god awful. And it's like, but right now, WWE's product is good. Several great storylines. The in-ring action is always good. NXT's on fire. They're putting on excellent matches. Um, AEW has consistently been, since their start, they've been consistently putting on excellent shows week in and
Mm-hmm.
week out. Um, Impact's doing the same. GCW is doing the same. New Japan, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, but there's just so much out there. It's like if you put all of the wrestling that's out there on a streaming service and you don't even know where to start.
Right.
Because I have some of my list on streaming services of movies I've picked are like 50 different things. And it's like I'll scroll through it and it's like, oh, I want to watch that. Wait a minute. No, I want to watch that. And it's like it's so much on the list, I don't know where to start. And that's kind of how wrestling is right now.
It was very fun to watch. Because I haven't been able to really keep up too much with AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And I texted Justin earlier from TNC Sports Talk because he texted me, asked me how the show was going or how it went last night. And I told him, I said, unfortunately, aside from the drama that's been coming out with AEW, with CM Punk,
Mm-hmm.
Jack Perry, all that.
Yeah.
I said, I really haven't been keeping up with it too much, not because I didn't want to, just because, like I said, I mean, it's just overwhelming and
Yeah.
I have other priorities. Like my wife is having surgery on her foot tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to, it may take me out of pocket for Monday. Don't know yet.
Yeah.
But we'll find out probably Monday, maybe like a game time decision. But, so the storylines when they came in there, now I was able to keep up. It was easy to figure out, okay, Moxley, Big Bill, they've had a thing going on for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was part of it was easy to figure out. Brian Danielson came in and saved Moxley from the beatdown from this is after the match was over from Big Bill and can I
Ricky
think of
Starks.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't say and I actually when I watched the show today, then I saw the other part of that story where he's now a manager because of reasons. So I was like, all right.
Yeah.
So but being a wrestling fan for as long as what I have been, I was able to kind of pick up on stuff.
Yeah.
Casual fan might not be able to. Brand new fan, probably not.
No. Brand
But
new fans not going to, but and like AEW was a lot easier to keep up with when they just had Dynamite. And even when Rampage, because a lot of times stuff that happened on Dynamite bled over to Rampage. It was kind of like an old school Raw and SmackDown type thing.
okay,
Stuff that happened
yep,
on Raw back in the day would bleed over to SmackDown. Same with AEW and Rampage. But then they created Collision, basically created Collision for CM Punk because that way he wouldn't have to interact with people he didn't like that wrestled on Dynamite because he was a brat. But
yeah,
then they did that, and it's like, and now they're trying to do a similar thing like WWE is like have Raw and SmackDown have separate rosters and separate stories and all this stuff. They're doing that with Dynamite and Collision, and it's like, okay, I get what you're going for, but you're still way too young to think that's going to work as well as you think it is. You're still too young as a company to go.
hmm
I think they're doing too much too soon. I mean, they're only 4 years old. The company is,
and half of their time was
and
spent in the pandemic.
yeah, and half the time was spent in the pandemic. So it's like I feel like they're doing, as far as TV goes, they're doing too much too soon. I think they should just worry about Dynamite and make it the best show that you can consistently, and then branch off and do other things down the line. But I just think 3 more hours of TV tacked on to what you've already got is just too much for a young company.
And I will say the crowd, like I said, it was only half the arena at Heritage Bank Arena in downtown Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
The crowd who was there though, oh my God, they were pumped. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was still loud. By the way, when you go to an AEW show, get ready to hear every little thing that happens in the ring because they have them rings mic'd up.
They're mic'd up.
Oh my Lord. You heard the boom, but then again, it also echoed because the lack of
Half the
people on the
arena
other
was empty. Yeah.
half the room is empty. So
Yep.
uh
There was nothing for it to bounce off of. Yep.
exactly. And it was still very cool singing along to Chris Jericho's song. Like I said, I got it on. I'll
Mm-hmm.
have to send you the video from that later. I don't want to get copyrighted, even though we're not monetized anyway, so it probably doesn't matter.
But still.
So, by the way, if anybody wants to sponsor us, please let us know.
Yeah.
We'll take all suggestions. I'm got on some sites trying to find sponsors, but hasn't happened yet. But I mean, still a good show. Also ran into people from the NWF last night. When I was in line to buy this $40 shirt, I looked out and there was a big group of people who were out there. And I'm like, that looks like Joe Pro James. That looks like Beck Reeves, and a couple. I'm like, okay, that's the folks from the NWF who were out there. So I took a picture of it from in there and I texted Joe Pro. And his immediate response was, who is this? And so I'm guessing that, because it's been a while since I texted him, because any old text messages were gone and my phone deletes them after a year.
Okay.
So I say, hey, Steve, what's up? And say, oh, how's it going? Because I'm always happy to see Joe. He's a great dude. And he's like, you enjoying this? He's like, what's up, my man? And I was like, yeah, just getting in line, trying first AEW show, whatever. And then later on, I want to say the dark matches or the bonus matches, whatever you call them, were already done. And all of a sudden I saw a line of them walking like in front of like the main sections there. And then they were going all the way to the right of where I was. And they were all grouped together.
Yeah, Ella was there because I saw it shortly before we started recording. I was looking through Instagram and I follow Ella on Instagram and she was on there. She showed a picture she was there last night.
You know what? I will send you the picture that I took. And Ella was probably in this picture, but I mean, I wasn't really close enough to see everybody. I didn't actually see Ella's post on Instagram. Yeah, because I follow her as well. And but then later I went to the snack bar and there's Breezy. She was in there. And then when we were and then right in front in the row right in front of me and down a little bit, didn't see him until it was like one of the last matches. Awesome. Yeah.
I just got the picture. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Beans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was sitting in the row in front of me, just down a little bit. I also looked at us like, hey, and he wasn't sitting with the rest of them for whatever reason, but him and his girlfriend were sitting, there.
Okay.
And then when we were leaving, actually I did see a guy, I think he was one of the wrestlers, but he was wearing a Swinger shirt. Because I was like, he looked like one of the strays, but he was all pierced up, and I'm like, I don't think he's pierced, but then he may take them off, for the, you never know. But when we were walking out, I actually saw some of the NWF folks that are normally there, like at every single NWF thing. I saw a couple of them, but when we were getting ready to get on the elevator to head down to our car, Breezy gets on the same elevator as us. So my wife actually got to meet Breezy.
That's awesome.
So and then as I need to send you this other picture, and it actually I'd have to look at my phone and try to find it, but it looked like Rip Rogers was also there. Because Rip Rogers, I mean, he lives in Louisville.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a 2-hour drive for him to go up to Cincinnati. So and if he actually does it, if he lives somewhere between the two, it'd be even less.
Yeah.
So but yeah, when I was talking to Breezy, because she had a bracelet like on her arm, like a little band. And I mentioned, I said, yeah, I got a picture of everybody outside, and she's like, oh yeah, we were waiting to get our bands. So I guess that is kind of a thing they arranged for them to be able to come in basically for free. And then of course with Rampage, and I sent you this and I actually posted it on Twix as well. Lord Crew was in one of the matches.
Yep.
And I mean, I was pretty stoked about that, and then him and his tag team partner got squashed. I mean, it was, I honestly, I hated seeing that, because Crew is one of those, he was squashed here, for Rampage. Next Saturday, he's going to be challenging EC3 for the NWA World Title.
Yep, he sure is. Yeah.
And it's going to be about a 10-minute drive from my house. in Williamsburg, Ohio. And I just found out today, well, I knew half of the story. I knew I was going to be taking my daughter to the airport because she's going to be flying down to Orlando for a few days. I did not realize her plane is taking off at like 9:30 at night.
Oh.
The same day. And I'm like,
It's like, oh.
So what I'm probably going to end up doing is going down, taking her to the airport, because you have to be there, 2 hours beforehand. Actually, I think it might be less than that, but I mean, but she's going to be there 2 hours beforehand, and I will drive back up, go straight to Williamsburg. But then again, also, if my wife, I mean, if she, because she's going to be still recovering from her foot surgery.
Yep.
This is going to be during the 2-week period that she can't work. So I do have to kind of prioritize that. But if I'm able to go, you see that belt?
There it is. Yep.
I'm going to try to get that one autographed
by
EC3, and hopefully, if they want Lord Crew as a champion, which by the way, I'd recommend Lord Crew. I mean, he is amazing in the ring. I'd get him to autograph it too. So, but yeah, so saw the Hardy Boys. They, of course, I mean, they're a Rampage staple. And Matt Hardy did a couple moves. My wife, she tapped me on the shoulder. She's like, Matt Hardy ain't as young as what he used to be. and I was like, no. So neither is Jeff. And
here's the funny thing, though. It's like the Hardy Boys, one of the all-time great tag teams, but they're really showing their age.
Oh, they're definitely starting. We always talk about Jeff.
Yeah.
But Matt's starting to as well.
But you look at like Christian, who went through the same type of stuff that they did, except, yes, Christian did ladder matches and he did different things, but Christian's also been smart with the stuff that he does. Because Christian's like at the top of his game and still looks like, younger version of Christian, while the Hardy Boys, you can definitely tell that they're past their prime.
And by the way, I also sent these pictures. When I sent them to you, I also sent them to Ted, the Hillbilly Hill. By the way, go check out the Hill Truth. If you haven't, well, that's a shame because you're missing out, because he really is the Podfather. I mean, award-winning, critically acclaimed, #1 in Antarctica, #1 on MySpace.
Yeah,
and
check it out.
By the way, Ted was just on my other podcast, the Cubicle Chat, this past Sunday. We talked all about villains, heels in like pop culture.
Okay.
So not any specific because I know you want to have the discussion with them specifically about like Batman villains.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. And that is on the Intellectual Rockstar. Also, go check out Dwalen's awesome podcast. I was on one of his last episodes. I just throw that out there. So, but when I sent the same pictures to Ted, and he's also confirmed, he said, he said they've been really struggling with their ticket sales. So, but yeah, go check out Ted. By the way, go check out the DWO Dad World Order next week, next Thursday. Which, by the way, we may have to delay recording next week because at the same time we record is when they do their live stream on YouTube. Next week, they're going to have Al Snow.
Oh, yeah.
So we may either have to record earlier or maybe record the next. We will figure out something, because that is because it's it's a live stream, and because it's a live stream, that means it's interactive and you can maybe able to ask questions. And I definitely want to catch that. Let's go check out the Dad World Order. Also definitely cannot forget Finisher Wrestling.
Yep.
Awesome guys, not just awesome wrestling podcasters, awesome guys.
Yeah.
So, I just want to throw that out there. Because they've always been very good to us, always put us over. We always want to put them over. Great show, great analytical minds, funny, informative, and just all around good dudes. So go check them out.
I agree.
Who am I missing as far as wrestling podcasts?
BC Hunter.
BC Hunter, Wrestling with the Truth. I know we mentioned BC before, but we can mention it again. BC Hunter, Wrestling with the Truth, Wrestling with the War. By the way, his latest one, he did say CM Punk. told you so.
Mm-hmm.
And BC is extremely organized, by the way. He went back and found the episode and actually played. It was when Jay, it is one of his best friends, Jay Myers. He's had to take a like a sabbatical from the podcasting for a little bit. He's taking care of some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We've all been through this,
Yep.
and but see, Jay was also still, he was a show where he was on, and he showed it. Told you so, and and by the way, I know some people are saying, "Well, CM Punk gone, that's why the crowds are down." Wrong. That is not it. In fact, last night, you had the normal chants, which, by the way, one thing that will hurt AEW, I personally believe, um, the Attitude Era could not last forever
Mm-hmm.
because it was chock full of more adult, like really
Mm-hmm.
adult, you know, borderline X-rated type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it couldn't have lasted that long because people were going, okay, I can't have my kids watching this,
Right.
you know. And I'm not saying everything has to be, all Winnie the Pooh and Care Bears either.
Right.
I mean, it's still adults, fighting, in a ring in their underwear, but
Yeah.
we're still adults. But some of the chants last night and some of the wrestlers who were encouraging it, I'm like, yeah, really? Um, I'll tell you off the air,
Mm-hmm.
because we're family friendly, and I don't think this one was family friendly. I was like,
Right.
yeah, it was part of Rampage, and if you watch Rampage, it was when Billy Gunn was out there with the other
The
two of the
acclaimed.
the
The
acclaimed,
acclaimed. Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you
I
can
can.
figure out what
Yeah.
the chant was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Okay. But remember when AEW actually first started, that was actually something they were catching criticism about anyway, was the language they were
Mm-hmm.
throwing on, on TNT, or
Yeah.
TBS, the TNT or TBS. Either way, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
but either way, it was like, you guys are going a little far because don't you remember when WCW, when they fizzled because they were going a little bit even further than what WWF at the time was doing,
Mm-hmm.
and WWF was
Yeah.
catching a lot of flack because of what they were doing, and
Yeah.
yeah, the Attitude Era may have popped a rating, but then it couldn't sustain it. I
No.
mean, because you can't, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's one thing I will say to AEW is you better may want to rein some of that in just a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. Um, but one of the other things when the crowds were chanting, this is awesome, this is awesome. But one part I can't remember the match they were saying, this is awesome, and I'm like thinking, no, not really. This was not worthy of it. This is awesome chant. And my wife, twice looked at me, she's like, for this, really? So, and I don't even remember what match it was, but it was not. I mean, it
Yeah.
was okay, whatever was going on at the time. Um, Jade Cargill, Chris Statlander. By the way, they had the main event of Rampage.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic match. Like I said, I mean, there's a rumor Jade's leaving AEW, going to WWE.
Mm-hmm.
This might tie into that because I mean, there was some guys who were sitting behind us. One of the guys was kind of a know-it-all with all the
Mm-hmm.
wrestling, and he's, it's like, wow, I can't believe they're having this already, and they're having the rematch already. Why would they do it on this stage? And da 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 da. And I'm like, I would tell you about my podcast. I don't think I want you as part of my audience, so, but
Yeah.
and
It's like, well, they probably did it because rumor also has it is that her contract is almost up, like
ah,
quickly in the next week or two. So that's probably why they went ahead, got, because got her rematch with Statlander. She put Statlander over. If she is leaving, then she did
and
business.
she
She
did.
did business. She did business on her way out the door. And somebody did have a good point. Her presentation will fit the WWE style more
Yes, it
than
will.
the AEW
Absolutely.
style. The
Yep.
AEW style is more of that gritty, realistic
Oh my lord,
style.
that's exactly the word gritty was exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. And WWE is the more, polished, flashy.
Yep.
It's the same as when you had WWF and you had Jim Crockett Promotions. Jim Crockett Promotions was more the gritty, more realistic thing, and then you had the over the top, almost cartoonish WWF. And now, but like with WWE's production value, which is still best in the business as far as
Mm-hmm.
their production value goes, video packages and all that. Jade Cargill's already a star. She already made herself a star in AEW. She's just going to get better in WWE. So for me, I don't think that's a bad move for her. It's not going to, I mean, is AEW, will they potentially lose a star? Yes. But their women's division is deep. I think they need to
Mm-hmm.
book them better. I think their women's division needs to be booked better, but their division is deep with talented women. So as that part goes, it's not going to hurt them to lose Jade. The star power is what will hurt them to lose Jade.
And that'll mean that somebody else just has to
Somebody else has got
step
to
up.
step up.
They're going to have to step up. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I mean, they have a very, very deep talent roster.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things when my son, of course, I mean, um, he's become not really a fan so much of wrestling. At
Mm-hmm.
first it was like he didn't like he said he didn't like indie wrestling. Well, then last night, he said well, he didn't really want to go, whatever. And um, but then my wife even pointed out, she's like, wait a minute, she's like, that's Daniel Bryan, first time with Bryan Danielson. There's,
Mm-hmm.
John Moxley, Dean Ambrose. Then you had Claudio came out also to help save John Moxley, which by the way, I
Yep.
love that kind of stuff when they like when a face is getting a beat down, don't just sit in the locker room watching him get a beat down.
Yeah. Come
You
out and
know,
help. Yeah.
come out and help. Um, so and that was against Big Bill and um there was somebody, I thought there was somebody else in there as well, but they were from WWE
Mm-hmm.
and more WWE people. Soraya, she was there. She didn't wrestle, but she was there along with
Yep.
Ruby Soho, Ruby Riot.
Yep.
They were there.
Mm-hmm.
Christian Cage was there. Chris Jericho was there. And so, like, half the roster was people who
Tony
had
Storm.
Tony Storm, you
Mm-hmm.
know, people who had been in WWE and now we're in AEW because WWE, it just wasn't working out at the time. I mean, and these are people, they were
Mm-hmm.
huge in WWE. I mean, think about Jericho and Daniel Bryan and
Mm-hmm.
and Moxley. And I mean, they were huge. Samoa Joe, here's another one.
Yep.
The Hardys. I mean, there were so many people that come there. Um, I just don't want to see that company all of a sudden implode. Because when you look at these I mean, it was alarming, to be honest with you. I mean, it was very alarming to see. It's like, wow, everybody's over on this side.
Mm-hmm.
And I've sent you the pictures. I mean, you could see, I mean,
Yeah.
that other side. And this was during matches, that other side. Now,
Mm-hmm.
people eventually started moving over there, probably
Mm-hmm.
not a lot, but they started moving because they're like, I don't like being in this great big crowd,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a ton of people, who moved over there, but there was people that were over there, but it was still pretty empty.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like seeing that, especially with the action in the ring being as good as what it was.
Yeah. Yep.
So well, and there was one other bit of wrestling, something that started today on Netflix, and I wrote in my notes, and of course my
Oh,
notes
the
are wrong.
wrestlers.
Wrestlers, yes.
Yeah, that's on my list. Hopefully I can get to that soon. It looks pretty interesting. Um, I hadn't really seen anything on Twitter, people's opinion of it yet, but it looks pretty good.
Um,
I'll give it a chance.
Justin actually, TNC Sports Talk, he actually posted where he watched it, and he said it was
Mm,
pretty good. Um, Jack Vaughn, the veteran Jack Vaughn,
mm-hmm. Yep.
he's in part of it because a lot of it, it is based around OVW. So
Mm-hmm.
you that means that you might see some NWF people in there because right about now, as we are recording, they are down in Louisville wrestling as part of
Yep.
OVW,
Yep.
and these like Mickey Victory, like Riley Matthews, like Star Rider, like Jack Vaughn. Jack Vaughn, I don't remember if he's their heavyweight champion right now or not, but
Mm,
he has been,
yeah.
and and we know how good they are. I'd love to get Jack Vaughn. I need to hit him up again, try to get him on, because I think that'd be a great interview.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's already become like, oh, that wrestling video guy, because his
Yeah.
videos are hilarious. They really are.
Yeah.
But one thing before I forget, a couple things about last night. Let me go back to that. First, you weren't going to see this on the air, but that announcer, I can't remember his name, dude was great. He was fantastic.
Justin Roberts,
That may have been it.
tall guy, black hair.
Yes.
Justin Roberts came from WWE.
About to say that name.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when he was introducing, of course, the commentators, you had Excalibur, Shivani, and Tab. Well, he introduced Taz first, and then he went back and introduced him again. And then later on, he said, "This is Taz Appreciation Night." And then also he's like, in other words, Taz. I mean, he just kept going back to it, and Taz was just eating it up. I mean, he was laughing. I mean, he was having a good old time with it. And then when MJF did a promo, he jumped into the Steiner math, and the crowd was absolutely losing it. But I was saying about the chants, and then I distracted myself. When they were doing the chants, all of a sudden somebody went CM Punk. Everybody else booed them hard.
Mm-hmm. People act like that CM Punk leaving is going to be like the nail in the coffin for AEW, and it's like a lot of people were already fed up with him. A lot of fans were already fed up with him, and it's like, from what I've been reading, the atmosphere has been a whole lot better in AEW since he got fired. There's people wrestling on Collision that were making their debut last week on Collision because CM Punk wouldn't allow them on the show when he was there.
And that's why you don't have the clowns running the circus.
Exactly. You'd think they'd learn from WCW. You don't let the inmates run the asylum.
Exactly. And when that guy, it was just one thing he said, CM, but now all of a sudden everybody's booing. It was during a match. So I'm pretty sure the guys in the ring, I was kind of watching them, and they, then they got booed, but the boos for that was nowhere near as loud. And I want to say it was during Rampage when it happened. And it was somebody who was on like the floor seats, almost front row, but which when I went to go get the seats, I was not about to pay, I think it was like $194 a piece, for the floor seats. I'm like, no, I'll stick with I think it was 24 piece. So I was like, we were able to budget it in, so there we go. Yep. But yeah, when he did the Steiner math, I mean, the crowd was just, going crazy. But yeah, so definitely, I want to go check out Wrestlers. Heels, new episode comes out tomorrow. One day we're going to have to talk about that show. Yeah. Because the first season definitely not family friendly with some of the stuff happening.
Yeah.
It was like an 80s movie. All of a sudden you're like, hey, well, there's some boobs. It's like,
wasn't expecting that, but there they are.
Expecting that, but I'm not complaining. But this one they've actually focused more. I mean, and it actually really is very well written, and it's like I was saying about the movie The Wrestler. It is not a movie about wrestling. It is a movie about somebody who happens to be a wrestler. The focus is not him wrestling. Yep. It's the person. And Heels, they're explaining a lot of things from the first season.
Right.
And they're moving on to other stuff. And some of the characters I'm going, okay, they've based that one off of so-and-so. They based that one off of real life people. So but I'm enjoying it. So if you get a chance, check that out. I think it's on Stars. So but is there anything else that we have not mentioned that's happened in the past week?
I think we covered everything. I'm sure some stuff will happen over the weekend, but
yeah, I'm pretty, or either that is I'm trying to go to sleep tonight. Something will hit me. I'll be like, crap, I'm text Waylon.
Yeah. Or I'll wake up and scroll through Twitter and say something. So,
yep. But we'll have to make, like I said, game time decision about Monday. It
Mm-hmm.
all depends on how, how my wife is feeling.
Yep.
Because
Hope her surgery goes well.
Yeah, she has a 3-inch tear in her tendon in her foot.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's going to be nasty surgery. She has to stay off that foot, for the next 2 weeks. I mean, she's just going to be basically sitting down with her foot propped up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2 weeks she can't work, and then for like another 6 weeks after that, she can't put any weight on it. And it's her right foot, which means she can't drive, which means
Yep.
I'm going to be the one driving her back and forth to work.
Mm-hmm.
At least driving her to work. But one of her coworkers might bring her home, just kind of depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be fun. So, but until we can record again, whether it's next Monday, next Thursday, or next Wednesday or Friday, because Al Snow is going to be with the DWO.
Yeah.
But until we can speak again, my friend, just got to say goodbye. God bless.
God bless.